Yeah, man, I love to shift those gears. How many of you guys are shifters out here? How many of you guys are big-time shifters, like you love to shift the gears in the car? Come on, give it up. Give it up like this if you're a shifter. Yeah, it's good. Now, some of you guys are big old guys. You drive these little bitty sports kinds of cars. Why you do that? Because you get to shift, right? Because it's just fun, man. And when you can shift well, it's just ka-chow, ka-chow, ka-chow. It's just awesome. So fun. One of our guys, he said, he rode his motorcycle this morning. He said, that's really fun to shift. He was here first service. And I've not done that, so I don't know. But some of you have done that. You like that too, right? Shifting on a motorcycle, like that's even more fun. And just ka-chow, 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 ka-chow. When you're jumping through the gears, and when you do it well, it is awesome. Now, for those of you guys who have some little more modern car where you don't really have a clutch and you get to do a little paddle shifter, ching, 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 ching. I'm like, how can you even? I mean, you cannot even amen that. What? See, there we go. It's not even fun. Okay, but now I'm telling you what's fun, man, is you get your foot in the clutch and you shift that gear first, second, third, choo, 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 and you come through. It is so much fun. Listen, by the way, I'm going to offer shifting lessons. You rent the car, okay? Get me a Ford 5.0, 5-speed, and I'll teach you how to shift gears, okay? It'll be really, really fun. The ticket's on you, all right? We got a defense attorney. He'll pick it up. Well, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Promise you, we really weren't going that fast. I'm just trying to teach him how to drive, okay? But shifting is so much fun when you learn how to do it. I'm fortunate. I was raised around a farm, and I was raised around things that had to shift gears, and my papa Fuson taught me how to drive a stick shift on a Ford F-350, big black Ford truck that sat way up off the ground with the great big old long shifter, one of those big shifters with a big black knob on top of it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over here to the right is down is reverse. Okay? It was awesome. I wasn't any good at it to start with. You know what happens when you first learn how to shift, when they try to teach you? Like, boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Like over and over and over again. It's a good thing he was patient, because it was just negative. And then trying to shift from one gear to the other, I hardly got out of first. Once I finally figured out how to get out of first, you shift and you're too slow and boom, whole car just dies. It's awful. But he was patient. I got okay at it. I wasn't great at it. He owned a farm store down in Corbin, Kentucky. And he sent me to do the bank deposit one day in that Ford F-350. I'm 16 years old, barely know how to drive the thing. I have to drive up a hill, down into the shopping center where his bank was, make the deposit, and then I'm leaving. Now, everything out of the shopping center is uphill. Yeah. So I get on the hill, trying to get out of the shopping center, and every time I try to shift, guess what happened? The truck rolling down the hill backwards. I'm going backwards. I'm not going forward at all. Try to shift. 15 minutes. No kidding. Traffic piling up and people trying to get out of the way while I'm trying to get up the hill. And I'm 16. I'm totally embarrassed. But I learned how to drive a stick shift, baby. After that, I can get up a hill on a stick shift now, because I know how to shift that thing. That's painful. You learn how to shift sometimes because it's too painful not to shift. And so I was fortunate. I had a great teacher in my papa that taught me how to shift. And now that I know how to shift, it's fun. I love to get on an open road with a stick shift and just run them through. You know what I'm talking about? Ka-chow, 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 ka-chow. When you're coming up, it's fun. Love that. And in life, when we learn how to shift well, when we learn how to do what God is asking us to do, it's fun to move. It's fun to shift with God. But if we don't learn to shift with God, painful. Painful. It's just hard. You know, we need somebody to teach us how to shift. We need somebody that will show us how to walk with God and how to shift with God when He's shifting. Because there's a couple of things I want you to plant in your mind for this shift series. Number one, God is always on the move. And number two, God is always speaking. The question is, are we listening? Okay. Now, we're going to dive into that today. We have a great teacher, a guy named Abram in the Bible, that we'll be looking at for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm going to be zeroing in on one chapter of Scripture during this entire series, Genesis chapter 12. So this will be the easiest, tightest, most focused series, Bible study you've ever done. Because I think it's important to watch this great man of God and how he shifted. Because if we learn how he shifted, then we can shift too. And that would be really good news. You're here today at worship because you want to hear from God and because you would like to shift into what he has for you in your life. I'm pretty confident of that. You wouldn't come if you didn't believe that. So I want to do all I can to teach you how to shift. Now, here's the series overview. Here's what it looks like. And basically, it's in your sermon notes on the back. Here's the series overview. Here's what we're going to be getting into. First gear, God is always speaking. Are you listening? Second gear, a great clutch and shift is like art. And next week, we're going to talk about the art of the shift. And then the third gear, feel the shift. Sometimes circumstances in our life move us to a place like that hill in the Trademark Shopping Center for me. That was a circumstance I had to shift and adjust to. There are hills in life, and there are downhills in life, and uphills and curves and things we need to shift and adjust to in life. So we're going to learn a little bit more about how to do that. And then fourth gear is sometimes you're going to feel fearful about a shift you need to make. But I would say to you, you got to feel the shift. You got to feel the fear of that shift and do it anyway. There are times you just have to feel the fear and move through it. And that's what we're getting into in this series. It gives you kind of a big overview. Today, we're going to talk about listening for the shift. My papa taught me there's two things about shifting you got to know. Number one, you got to listen for it because the engine starts to make a certain noise, doesn't it? It starts to kind of wind down. It gets louder and louder, and it starts to bog down. You can listen to it, and you can feel it. You can feel the car changing. But when you shift, what happens? It opens up a little bit. You get a little more road. You get a little more speed, and the car begins to open up. And once you hit fifth in a 5-speed, it's a wide open road. It's fun, isn't it, Rob? This is a transmission guy. He's awesome. And best mechanic I know. And this guy, he fixes these things so people can feel the joy of shifting. And they can feel the joy of just going where it's in there. But we got to learn to listen for the shift. Now, in a car, that's true. In our lives, that's true too. We got to listen for the shift. How do you know when it's time to shift? I believe that God is always speaking. Are we listening? If you're listening, God will begin to speak to you and tell you that it's time to shift. Now, the story we're going to dive into, the story of Abram, who later became Abraham, the father of the Israelite nation, in which the Jesus Christ came through that lineage, all because Abram learned to shift because he listened to God. So I want to read some scriptures with you. The scriptures are found in your sermon note card. They'll be on the screen. And I want you just to read the scripture with me. And let's look at this, and then we'll take it apart a little bit. Genesis 12, 1 through 4. The Lord had said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Would you pray with me? Now, God, right now, I know that I got friends in this room, people that love you, but they're afraid to make a shift. God, today, would you help them to make the shift they need to make? Father, I have friends in the room today who aren't even sure they believe in you. Not only are they not sure whether you speak or not, they're not even sure you exist. And God, I know that that's okay with you, but because you still believe in them and you're still speaking, and I pray that you would tweak their hearts today, that you would open them up to the possibility that you were there and that you're speaking and you have something. And God, for those of us who sometimes are slow to hear or slow to shift, would you help us to pick up the pace today? Help us to trust you enough to shift into the life you have imagined for us. I ask it in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right, so let's take this apart a little bit. This Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 4. Let's look at this for just a minute. Then the Lord told Abram, all right, now in that sentence, there's something happening. The Lord told Abram. So what's it mean Abram's doing? Listening. See, rule one about shifting is you got to listen for the shift. You see, God is always speaking, but it doesn't mean we're always listening or that we're always hearing. Sometimes he seems very silent because we're not really listening. But it tells us that Abram had a listening relationship with God. How is your relationship with God and with all the stuff I'm dumping out of my Bible? Okay, how is that going for you? Are you listening to God? Are you paying attention to him? How's your listening? Do you listen well? Or does God have to thump you over the head to get your attention? Are you paying attention? Abram paid attention to what God was saying. He was listening. Are you open to hearing from God? Now, I'll be honest. In my life, I've never heard God speak an audible thing to me, like an audible sentence out loud. However, I've had some moments that have been very, very close to audible as you can get without it being there. And those have been life-changing moments for me. When God impresses into my spirit so much, and I know that the voice isn't my own mind making things up, but this is God clearly speaking to me. And I know He wants to do the same thing in your life. He wants to speak to you. The reason I know that is that the Scriptures are full of people like Abram who listened to God and shifted because of it. It's not just my experience or Abram's experience, it's the experience of every person that followed God well and that did what He asked them to do in their lives. Many of the greats that are written of in here are great because they listened to God. They listened for the shift. And that's very important. So we know that Abram, number one, he was a listener. He listened to God. He had that kind of relationship. I'm asking you, have you cultivated that kind of relationship with God? Are you willing to cultivate that kind of relationship with God? The second thing we know about Abram is this, is that he believed God. How do I know that he believed God? He believed the promises that God gave him. How do I know that he believed Him? Because he took action. See, the concept of belief in the Bible, when we say you need to believe in Jesus or you need to believe God, we're saying you need to trust Him enough to take the action that He's asked you to take. That's what belief is. Belief isn't just a mental construction in the Bible. It's not just a head nod to going, oh yeah, I think Jesus is a nice guy, or yeah, I know there's God. It's not just something up here. It translates into action in our life. To believe biblically is to take action based on that belief. And so Abram's taking action based on what he believes. God makes this promise to Abram, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to do these incredible things through you. The whole world is going to be blessed through you. That's a big promise, isn't it? It's pretty big. And Abram believed enough to take action on that. But let's talk about you and me for just a minute. What if you sensed God was speaking to you the way He spoke to Abram? And what if God's speaking to you with something like this? I want you to rent a moving truck. I want you to pack up everything in your house. I want you to sell your house. I want you to leave this place where you're very comfortable. I want you to leave your comfort zone totally. I want you to pack it all up, get it all together, and then I'm going to show you where we're going. How you doing with that? How would you do with that? I would not do well. I want to know where I am going. Well, God, how about this? How about you tell me where we're going and then let me decide if I want to go there? That's how most of us live, isn't it? Or it's like this. For many of us, we get together a little triptych. We make our own plan for our life. And then we hand it up to Jesus. We say, Jesus, would you bless my plans for my life? It's true. That's what we think Christianity is. It's like, God bless my plans. And we're upset when He doesn't. But that's not following Jesus. That's Jesus following us. Jesus doesn't have to follow us, does He? Are you God? Don't answer that. Some of you think you are. You're not. But there is one. And God has plans for us. And He invites us into those plans. But He doesn't always tell us the outcomes of our plans. He doesn't always tell us exact turn-by-turn directions. What if God said, okay, you got the truck packed up. Now, put the little tom-tom direction thing on the dash, and I'm going to speak through the tom-tom. You just take off. Just start driving the truck. How you doing now? Your stuff's all loaded. Your family's all with you. The kitty's in the crate. The dog's in the crate. And everybody's in there, and you're trying to keep peace, and the kids are fighting in the back seat, and you're just taking off. You don't know where you're going. Is that crazy? That seemed crazy, wouldn't it? But that's exactly what Abram did. He loaded it all up. He got his whole family together. He believed in God so much. He trusted Him so much. He had a relationship with God that was so vibrant and so alive, which is what we want, isn't it? A vibrant, alive relationship with God where we shift when He tells us to shift. And so he packs it up and he heads out, going to a land he doesn't really know where he's going, and God's giving him turn-by-turn directions. Now, God had given him magnificent promises. But what we know from Scripture, from the rest of the story of Abram, who becomes Abraham later, changed the name a little bit to become father of many, that there were a lot of things that were going to happen in Abram's life that he probably would not have signed up for had he known when he packed up the truck. Now, I got to tell you, when you follow Jesus, there will be moments when you're going to step out on faith and you're going to begin to take action, and it's not going to go exactly like you thought it was going to go. But it doesn't change his promise, and it doesn't change his plan. He's still bringing you to a place he's going to show you. That's what it is to move in faith. It's to move out even when you don't know all the details. It's to move out based on hearing clearly from God and taking action. Now, I'm praying that you and I will be those kinds of people. That will be the kind of people that have such a vibrant relationship with God, a listening relationship that will move out when he tells us to, even when it doesn't make sense and even when we don't have it all figured out. That if we're certain that God has called us, that we would go. Now, here's what I've learned. In those moments in my life when I've trusted him enough to do exactly what he's asked me to do, even if I didn't know all the outcomes, it has been a miraculous, fun, crazy, wild adventure. It's been fun. I get to see God do amazing things that I never get to see if I don't shift into the unknown. If I don't shift a little bit out onto the edge where he's called me to be, I don't get to see that. Now, here's what's going on with some of us. Some of us right now, even though you know how to shift, you've decided you won't shift, no matter what God has said. You've decided in advance, I will not shift. And because of that, you're in the passing lane in a 70-mile-an-hour zone, driving 25 miles an hour in second gear. And you're winding that car out. But it's no fun. And some of you walking with God right now feels that way. Because you're not shifting. You chose not to shift. And that's hard. So maybe today is a day when you need to think about, what's the next thing God has called me to do? Because he's calling all the time. So number one thing that Abram did is he listened to God. Number two thing is that he believed God. And the number three thing he did is he shifted. He shifted into the unknown. He shifted into the unlikely to succeed category. He shifted into the, are you crazy? Are you really going to follow God that way kind of category? But here's what I promise to you. If you will do that, if you will shift when God calls you to, and sometimes into the unknown, and sometimes into the uncertain, that will be the place where you will experience God like you've never experienced him before. However, if you refuse to shift, even though God may be speaking, you won't be hearing. For some of us, we wonder, why can't I hear God? He's speaking, but you may have decided not to listen anymore. So you've got your fingers in your ears, and you're like, I am not listening, I will not do, I will not go. In those cases, even though I believe God is always speaking, He may in your little corner of the universe, grow strangely silent. And let you sit there and think about whether you're going to shift or not. And here's what I know. God lives in eternity. He's from the beginning until the end, He is eternal. That's a very long time. You on this planet do not have that long. However, God will let you not shift if you choose to. And in not shifting, He will let you take your potential and what He could have done in your life to the grave. Did you know that? He will find another avenue. He will find another person. He will use somebody else. He doesn't have to wait on us to get His work done. But He invites us into it. And wouldn't you like to be a part of that? Wouldn't you like to be a person that shifts right into what God wants you to do? It's the most exciting, thrilling, possible, awesome way to live. It's fantastic to live on the edge of just shifting when God calls us to it, clutching and going. So we're learning from Abram that he listened, he believed, and he shifted. Now, his belief is showed by the willingness to shift into the unknown. What's your belief shown by? Or are you holding back? Are you grinding it out in second gear when you got 3 gears ahead of you that you could go into? Here's one reason why some of you aren't shifting. You think it's too late. The fourth thing that Abram did, he shifted when he was 75 years old. It's never too late to shift. It's never too late to join God where he's at work. It's never too late to hear from him and take action. It's never too late. Now that's really good news, isn't it? Because some of us, we're here and we realize a good chunk of our life has passed. We've got less in front of us than is behind us. So what do you do then? Go ahead and shift. Go ahead and shift. Because the last years can be better than the first. You can take all the experience of those first years and make them even better for the second. Because it's never too late to shift. It's never too late to get in on what God is up to. But we gotta open up our hearts, open up our minds, and we have to listen. We have to trust, even when we don't understand all the outcomes, and we got to go anyway. Make sense? Now, here's your options. We can listen to God, and we can shift, and we can experience the fruits and the benefits of shifting. Or we can say, I will not shift. I will not change. And here's what happens. I've watched it in people's lives. I've watched shifters continue to be blessed by God and move forward in their lives. And I'm saying their life was always easy, but I'm saying God used them miraculous ways. And right till the end, man, they shifted right till the very last breath. Boom. And then when they went out of here, they went out with a bang. It was beautiful, and the funeral was awesome, and it's good. They slid into home. It was awesome. Okay? That's one way of getting it done. Keep shifting right till the end. The other way is to say at some point, that's too uncomfortable. I will not shift anymore. I'm too old. I'm too tired. I don't trust him enough. Whatever it is, there'll be some reason why you choose to stop shifting. If you stop shifting, do you know what will happen to you? Your life will grind down, and the car will come to it. If it's not stopped, it'll be miserable. You're winding it out. You're holding traffic up. You're kind of like a moving speed bump. And you'll become whinier. Whinier and whinier and whinier and more critical. And you'll kill the action of God in your life. And you'll say no to him. And your life will wind down to a grueling, grinding, miserable, slow pace of just grinding it out until finally you just keel over. I think I know you well enough to know which one you want. You want to be the one that shifts, right? You want to be the one that goes, okay, ka-chow, 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 boom, move through the gears, and you're going to go, right? That's you, right? That's who you want to be. Well, this series is going to help you. I want you to dive into this and think about Abram, who shifted, ka-chow, 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 because God told him when to shift. He had a relationship where he's listening to God. So God is always speaking. Are you listening? Are you really listening? And if you are, then it may be time to shift, because if you don't shift, the alternative is really bad. But shifting, you can shift into a fantastic future. It's never too late to shift, and that is really good news. So, 4 things. Okay, listen, cultivate a listening relationship to God. Believe God enough to shift, and then know it's never too late to do those things. And as you live that kind of life, then God has all kinds of things in front of you, and that's a beautiful thing. Now, you know what? Just like it's possible for individuals to kind of grind their lives down and stop shifting, it's possible for churches to do the same thing. The good news about Phos Community Church is so far, man, you guys are good shifters. It's been fun. From very mobile and kind of adventurous and then into a movie theater for a while, and then to Oldham County High School, and now to this property. And you've made some shifts in this property and changing it up. I don't know if you noticed the parking lot's finally all paved and the pigtails finished there. You need to walk around and look at it. It's pretty cool. It looks good. I'm grateful for that, but we're not done. Okay? We're not done. We did that to help you have a better worship experience, but we also did it to help other people have a better worship experience too, right? Okay, so we got to keep shifting into the future, because just like individuals can grind to a halt, churches can grind to a halt. Mike, our worship leader, has told me a story before about a church that one of his relatives attended. And the church was in a very fast-growing region. This is 25 or 30 years ago. And the church was really growing well. They were doing a lot of good things, and they were reaching a lot of people for Jesus, and it didn't have a church home, and it was very exciting, and it was a packed house, and it was really good. And so they decided they needed to get together a committee and vote on what they were going to do. So they got together a committee, and the committee decided, you know what? We really like it the size we are now. This is very comfortable for us. And they decided they would just be a church for themselves. And they wouldn't shift anymore. Now here's what's going to happen. In the next 10 to 15 years, when all those people die out, they still give lots of money. They had some wealth among the church. That church will be sold to be used as a parking lot or a baseball field or a Pizza Hut. That's what will happen. Because they chose to quit shifting. They chose to stop. Now, that's not going to be us, is it? Say no. Say no, it's not going to be us. We're going to keep shifting, right? Because here's the reality. This is something I just need to remind us of. You know, the church exists for those we haven't met yet. The church exists for those we haven't met yet. We're the only organization in the world that's really designed for those we haven't met. That's designed for those who don't know Jesus yet, who don't have a church home yet. And many of you are new today. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Thanks for checking this out. I'm grateful for you. This next few minutes, I'm really talking to those of us who consider this our church home. This is our family. This is our body. You're part of this. You're bought in. You want to make it go. God is always asking us to shift. And God is asking us to make a few shifts here at Phos Community Church. A few little things that I think will help. Our team has been getting ready for the shift for a while. And we're getting ready to make a few little things, a few little shifts. And I'm asking you, if you're core here, if this is part of your body, that you shift with us into the future. Now, I want you just for a moment to look around in this worship service. Take a second and just look around, okay? Just see what's here, see who's here. Now, we have a few open seats, right? But not a ton. We're not to the busiest part of our year yet. Did you know that? Our busiest part of the year is coming up as we head into September. Once we get past the holiday in September is when it's kind of the new year for churches. That's when a lot of people come back to church, and all the college move-ins are over, and people are settled back in, and they've done their last vacations. We still have a lot of people out on vacation and doing that sort of thing. But we're coming to a zone where there's a lot of people that would like to come here and worship with us. So we got to make some shifts to help them do that, okay? Now, I know, and this, you got to hear me out. You could say, no, I'm not going to do it, and that's okay. I will love you anyway. If you don't do anything I'm going to suggest here, it's okay. You work it out with God, and if you say, no, I'm not going to do it, it's okay. I'm not going to beat you up or be mad. I'm just going to say, here's some things I think we need to do as your pastor to help reach other people, because that's what churches are for, right, is to reach other people. We don't want to be that church Mike knows about, do we? 20 years from now, I don't know that I'll be here 20 years from now, but I hope that the reports I'm hearing from Phos Community Church is she's still going, cha-chung, 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 cha-chung. She's still shifting through. She's still going. That's what I want to see happen. I want us to shift and go and see what God can do, because the best is yet to come. We're just now getting up to second gear. We got 3 or 4 ahead of us. And so, can I talk to you about some shifts for a second? Would you be open to that? Give me uh-huh or uh-uh. Because if you don't want to hear, I'll just shut, pray and go. But anyway, you guys have proven to be great shifters, and thanks for doing that. Here's some things I'm going to ask you to help us with. I'm going to ask you to consider shifting to first service. Okay? Now, you don't have to. Listen to me. If you have little kids, don't worry about that. You got to get them. That's not why you're here. But for some of you that can, if you don't have to, if you're okay getting up a little bit earlier and you don't have to drag kids out, then would you consider coming to first service? It'll be at 9:30. And we're starting all this September 13th, by the way, right in coincidence with Celebrate Centerfield, and when we know the Sunday that most people come back to church, all that, we're putting this all together that Sunday. We're going to add some new chairs in here to the worship center. It'll change kind of some of the dynamics of communion. We don't know how that's going to work yet. We may have to make some other shifts with that, but we're going to experiment with some things. We're going to add as many worship chairs as we have to add a few more seats in here. It's going to tighten up a little bit in the worship center, okay? So that's a shift that's coming. I'm going to ask you, as much as possible, to sit as far forward when you come in as possible. Leave as many seats in the back as possible for newcomers, because generally they come just a little bit late, and they don't want to be seen. So let's let them have the Baptist seats in the back as much as possible. Okay? I know that the Baptists believe you're a better worshiper the further back you go. But if you will, just shift forward a few rows if you can. Again, you can say, I am not doing that. Okay, I get it. Stay where you are. It's fine. I love you anyway. But if you can, and if it's okay, would you consider doing that? I want you to become a parking ninja. Come to first service if you can. Second thing to do, if you're coming to second, be a parking ninja. If you're able-bodied and you can, park as far away as possible. Now, again, you don't have to do it, but maybe if it's a nice day like today and the ground's dry, you could even park in the grass up near the signs up top and just make more space in the parking lot. Here's what we have. The situation we have is this. We've got exactly enough parking to fill up this building. The challenge is by the time you put children in here, to fill up the worship center, by the time you put children and everything else, we're a little bit tight on parking. We'll add that as soon as we can afford to. We'll add more. But we've added even more this week. You can go look at it like I mentioned a while ago. It looks really good. So just be creative. Be a parking ninja. And then be a greeter. As you're coming in, greet other people and say hi. And just know that if this is your church home, you're a greeter. Okay? You're a greeter. And then shift your focus away from just what's in it for you to what's in it for them. What's in it for these new people that are coming? Now, I want to take you a long way back. This is a time most of you don't know anything about. Matter of fact, there's precisely 12 people that know about this. There were 12 people. We were preparing the launch of Phos Community Church, gathered in my basement. We were thinking about, praying about launching this church, getting ready. And we had some great fellowship and some really powerful meetings together. We were cleaning up after the meeting, and I was headed up the stairs with some stuff to take back to the kitchen to clean. And one of those 12 said, I love this. This is perfect. The 12 of us. It's awesome. In my spirit, as a pastor, I'm like, holy buckets, we better shift gears fast. Because if we stop here, this would be the end of it. And it could have been the end, and you weren't part of that. Had we grown comfortable then and said, we're not shifting anymore, we're not changing anymore, then none of you would be here. Isn't that something? Did you know that? There have been a few of those moments where our core team, people that risked a lot to start this, have had to shift, and we're going to continue to have to shift. And I'm asking you, would you shift with us? Would you help us? Go to first service if you can. Be a parking ninja. Be a greeter, especially as you see this season coming up. And let's leave as many of the back seats as we can for our newcomers and shift forward if possible. Again, some of you have physical disabilities and things where you need to be where you are. Stay where you are. I'm not fussing. I'm just giving us some ideas, okay? So for you that own this as your church, you're like, this is my church. I want to see her grow. I want her to reach her full redemptive potential. Then let's go. Now, at one point, you may have heard that we were talking about going to 3 services. We're not going to do that right away. What I'd like to do is to do all we can to max out the 2 services we have. Okay, we're going to do all we can to max out these services, make them as exciting as we can. Max out the 1 and 2. We're looking at an overflow situation in the cafe, and we're going to look at we're trying to figure out how to use some seating in there, maybe even blow out a wall over there if we need to. We're looking at some things. We're trying it. I'm going to talk more about this on Wednesday night at the Rockin' Zombie Chili Chomp. Give you the whole details. But we're trying to just max this space out for 2 services. Once we get there, then we'll consider adding a 3rd. Make sense? But we're going to max this building for all it's worth. Right now, we're trying to use every square inch of it as best we can. And we're going to continue to do that. We want to be good stewards of what God has given us. Given us a great gift. Let us maximize it. I hope you'll shift with me and join me in doing that. I hope this will be an exciting time for you. And I need to say this to you, too. Many of you that are here, you wonder, well, what about us? Well, we love you. And we're preparing for you, too. Right over here, when you leave worship, you can go to the small group cafe. We're preparing new groups for you. We've got space in small groups for you. We're preparing some new discipleship strategies for you. There's a lot of things we're doing for you. We're going to be revamping our care team and our prayer team this fall to give you more support than you've ever had. We want to do great things for you as a core member at the same time as we're inviting new people to come. Make sense? So we're shifting our staffing. We're shifting some things we're doing to make it possible to carry the load of more people coming. So just bear with us as we make some of these shifts. We're not going to get them all right. Some of the times the gears are going to grind a little bit, but we're going to do the best we can to shift well into the future that God has for us. Because I know this, if churches don't shift, if we don't shift, then we will die. If you don't shift as a person, you won't reach the potential that God has for you. You won't know all that God could do with your life. But if you do shift, It could be the most exciting thing that's ever happened to you. So let's go back to you and Abram. Would you be a listener like Abram was? Would you trust God enough to shift when he asked you to shift? Would you cultivate a relationship of listening to God? If you'll do those things, the best is yet to come in your life. This can be the most exciting season you've ever had coming up as you learn to really zero in and follow God and to change gears, ka-chow, 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 right into the future that God has for you. And wouldn't that be fun? I think it'll be a blast. Let's pray together.